Sweet.
Right. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the CPRW podcast. We've made it to 10, which is amazing to me because I would have given up like 8 episodes ago. So today we're joined once again by Lara.
Hey.
Matt from Ear Nutrition is back.
Oh yeah.
And we have a special guest in from Pook, who does Pookout Records, Redeemon, Beat the Red Light, and trombone for every other ska band that will have him.
Wow. More than Bobble? Blimey, okay.
Oh,
yes, I'll go with that.
That's a good shout, to be fair. Bobble is in all the bands.
Bobble is in all the bands. He's got the saying and everything, mate.
Yeah, they Pook's on the podcast basically because he keeps sending me naked photos of himself, and on one it
makes
says,
you hard.
Well, sometimes. No, they basically says, "Can I come on the podcast?" And if you're going to send me lots of naked photos of yourself, then I'll probably say yes.
Fair dues.
Do you want
Come on now, kids. It's before 9 o'clock.
do you want to have a quick sort of introduction to what Pookout Records is before we crack on?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Pookout Records is basically it started off as a distro, trying to get, I was finding it super expensive buying vinyls from overseas, and like when you get hit with the postage, like it's almost like 30 quid. And then you get hit with a customs charge. It's like 5 times worth of the actual vinyl itself. So I started a distro, basically buying in bulk. And it was basically just slicing that postage by however many units I was getting and going from there. It just made it a lot cheaper and it's a lot more accessible. And then as time's gone on, we just started to branch out as a label. So we've got a few releases, a few pre-sales coming up. We've just announced the Andy B and the World one, which is absolutely smashing it. And then before that, we our little test guinea pig run, I'd say, was the Beat the Red Light 10th anniversary vinyl, which I've always wanted to see on vinyl, so it just made sense for me to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much what we do. It's majority ska punk, but we will delve into other genres as well. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I made probably one of your best customers, so thank you for all you're doing.
Absolutely, mate. No, love it. It's so nice to actually see people coming back, especially like we were chatting about with the post, was like, he's going to get a large collection of these sourcing pictures. So yeah, no, it's lovely to see people come back.
Cool. Right. So today we're talking about something that's probably quite passionate to all of our hearts. So why don't people listen to new music? It's like the topic sort of came from sort of Lara's idea. So we'll let Lara explain more.
Yeah, I think it came about when I think I was listening to one of the comps that you'd put together on the CPRW records on Bandcamp. I can't remember which one it was. And I think we were talking over Instagram about it, and I just thought, well, like, there's so much music around, like, how do you know where to look for it, even though there's so much of it? Where do you start? Because I was kind of stuck in the whole fat wreck kind of cycle. Ooh, my microphone went for a walk then. I was in this whole kind of fat wreck cycle for a long time, and I didn't know I know it sounds really dumb, but I didn't know how to get out of it. So it was more like, I wanted to kind of look at how other people found new music basically, and talk about how like I've found new music and kind of how people get stuck listening to stuff, I suppose. Like, is it like, do people not want to listen to new stuff, or do they just not know where to find it, I guess? Yeah,
I think a good place to start with this conversation would be like, what were everyone's sort of gateway bands? How did you first discover punk rock?
Well, my main one was like Blink-182. I can't lie and say it was anything cooler than that. It was like definitely Blink-182 back in like, I don't know, like 99 maybe, when they brought out Enema of the State, or 98, so that was mine.
Yeah, Matt, what was yours?
Again, no shame. Mine was actually Green Day when they released American Idiot. Like, I knew who they were. I liked some guitar music by that point, but not really. And then a lot of kids in my school started liking it. But it was funny because they were the kids that were picking on me. I was like, no, I don't like that. But then I ended up listening to it. And then it went from sort of Green Day and Blink and Good Charlotte.
There's no shame.
You've
all been there.
Yeah, I saw them live a few times, not gonna lie. But yeah, stuff like that. And then through that, like the whole style of punk, the more simplistic sort of pop punk at the time, echoed a lot of the stuff that Clash were doing, like the riff to Motivation by Sum 41, stuff like that. Like, that's a very Clash-esque kind of riff.
Yeah.
So I'd go back to that, and then eventually it went on to music started getting faster and faster, and I discovered like Rancid and stuff, because they were quite diverse and ska, and then it kind of went to, I'm trying to think who it was. People were showing me like Strung Out and Bad Religion and Pennywise, and then I kind of got into that. But the biggest thing is when I heard Rise Against, who I'd gotten into, didn't like the screaming at the time, just like the melodic stuff, but then I heard their cover of Fix Me by Black Flag, and then that got me into Black Flag, and then that opened up hardcore and post-hardcore to me, and then I've just dotted about and sort of settled on sort of skate punk and melodic hardcore now. But I listen to loads of stuff, but that's my kind of, I would say.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think for me, I started off when I was 8-9 years old. My cousin got me into the whole Guns N' Roses, Metallica thing, and that when you were younger, like buying Krang magazine and like going through all that. And then we're reading through that. I was reading about Green Day, The Offspring, like the whole Epitaph thing kicked off. It is just weird. I just find it like it almost just links itself. The whole punk rock community is just very linked. So obviously, going into all the Epitaph bands, so Green Day, Rancid, Offspring, you delve into No Effects, and then No Effects showed you the Fat Wreck stuff, and then you went down that big long plateau. But I think for me, when music had the biggest impact, was one of the first shows that like punk shows I went to was Cap Down, Big D, Five Knuckle, and Lightyear. And it was just, I've never seen, such an amazing lineup. And I just had never, ever really seen a trumpet or a trombone on stage. And seeing like Big D, I think that it was when Big D it was the Good Luck era. So they were almost like a 10-piece. And seeing that many people crammed on the Underworld, I was just like, holy moly, like this is just nothing I've ever seen before. There's, especially from listening to like the background of Guns N' Roses and whatnot, not a single pair of spandex was seen in sight. But it's just like all these trumpets and trombones. It's just so refreshing and so different. And that sort of, so it was 2000. So I was like late teens, early 20s. It just had such a massive impact, man. Like a huge impact. And then from there, you kind of look at the thank you lists with the other bands and stuff. So that was how I kind of found it.
Did you 20 years ago, when you first saw Lightyear that time, ever expect to be on stage with them? Like playing that tour with them last year?
Oh my God. No. I mean, literally, I think that's why that was one of the best 2 weeks I've ever had. It was so much fun. At the same time, it was terrifying because all the Lightyear tour stories that everyone's like heard, I was just like, right, okay, eyebrows may get shaven off. Might not grow back, okay. Like we haven't got job interviews or anything after it, so that's fine. Like, yeah, something pranks may occur, but yeah, it's part and parcel of the gig. And luckily, I walked off unscathed. Really, there was a couple of points where I was like, oh, that's a bit, but no, all in all, apart from the panto horse, it was amazing fun, absolutely amazing fun.
I went through a couple of shows on that tour, and it was just the best. Like, I think it really. I mean, we won't go to talk about my love of Lightyear too much because this is not what this podcast is about. But like, if you didn't know, like
next episode, everyone.
Yeah, who Lightyear are on that tour. Like, and sort of watching you, because only Chaz, Neil, and I always forget the saxophone man's name, Ben, playing on that tour, wasn't it? Who were like original Lightyear members. But if you didn't know, like, you wouldn't have known. And I think that really stands up for the quality of their songs.
Like Jim, the drummer, was at the London show watching us, and he was like, "It's really weird." It was like, "It's Lightyear. It's how Lightyear should sound." with Bob from JB on the drums and everything, like holding it together. It was it was weird in the sense it sounded like Lightyear, but it didn't. But it still had the energy. It was just different. You couldn't. Yeah, it was just a really, really weird experience for him. But yeah, loads of people recommended it. So yeah, it was awesome.
I loved it. But anyway, we'll crack on with the actual podcast now. We love
Yeah.
that, yeah. Right. So how, like, when you obviously started getting into punk, and so how did you find music back then? Because obviously we didn't have like Bandcamp and Spotify and stuff like that then.
Mine, similarly, my cousin got me into a lot of stuff. He's like the same age as me, but I don't know how he kind of figures, like, how he found stuff. But it was mostly through him that I'd like borrow his like Dude Ranch and Enemy of the State CDs, and then I would go on and borrow his Rancid CDs. But then when I started kind of looking into things myself, because I would have been about maybe 13, 14, 15 at the time, it would be like buying Kerrang and then reading reviews in the back of there, and then just like hoping that when I then go to HMV and buy the CD that I actually like it, rather than just kind of thinking, oh well, this review says if you like Blink-182 you will love this album or whatever, and then just hoping that that I will. And then similarly like liner notes, like thank you notes and stuff in the CD kind of booklets, that sort of thing. None of my friends were really into the same stuff, so I kind of relied on my cousin as well. But and obviously this was the early days of the internet as well, right? So it was kind of really hard to find anything that way back then. So yeah, mainly Kerrang reviews. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, where mine came from.
Yeah, again, I feel like a lot of it is like what Laurie said earlier about the Fat Records. You find a label, it predominantly has like a certain sound, and if you like one band on that label, there's a high chance that you're gonna like 6, 7 other bands from that label.
Yeah.
But both at the same point, they've got a similar sound, but they also hold their own on the, as a unit on their own.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you've got bands like Mad Caddies on Fat Wreck, and then you've also got like Strung Out. They're both very different, but they've both got like a similar sound to it. And I think again, a lot of it. Have you guys seen the Fat Wreck documentary?
Yes.
It's got Ryan, where it goes on about Ryan Green producing the sound and all that stuff. And I think a lot of it is kind of that production is what unifies that. But yeah, going back, you've got all these labels. If you like one band from it, Asian Man Records as well, another phenomenal label. And if you like one band from there, you just basically follow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you guys said, a lot of word of mouth, talking about when the internet wasn't quite as big. Does anyone remember Launch on Yahoo, the music video thing?
No.
Basically, so Yahoo had their own music video thing. So at my school, we had I grew up on the Isle of Wight, so it's quite a backward little thing. Like they had loads of proxies on the sorry, not proxies. We had to find proxy servers to check out certain websites and stuff at school, and have like IMs on our computers while we were supposed to be working and checking out stuff. So you could go on Yahoo Launch, which was music videos. And it disappeared around the time that I remember first hearing what YouTube was. So I didn't really know what it was at the time, and I was about 14, 15. So I'd go and check out things that people had said or what I'd heard on the radio. Radio was still quite a powerful thing at this point, especially Radio 1. I know now in hindsight it wasn't, but to young ears, you know, hearing guitar music next to all this other stuff that I didn't like was an interesting in for me. So I would then look further and see what I could find. But, you know, I'd go through pages and pages of Wikipedia, pages and pages of this website called Sputnik Music, which is still going, but it's not like it used to be.
Sputnik. That rings a bell.
And because it used to break things, because I'm fascinated by like categorizations and differentiations in sound, and I like to think I've got a bit of an ear for picking out what people. I mean, I'm not a musician, but picking out what people are doing when I'm writing my reviews and stuff. So that's kind of where I got a lot of that from. So I would just hear a name and look it up, and then that'll be it. But again, a lot of word of mouth, a lot of Kerrang, a lot of rock sound. And again, and Sputnik and stuff, but I'd spend a lot of time organising my iTunes anyway. And while I'd be doing that, I'd be looking up stuff. Or, you know, we used to send each other songs off on MSN Messenger and stuff like that, and definitely not use LimeWire and things like that. It was all of that for me all kind of rolled into one, and I just kind of went from there, really, extrapolated it.
Oh, LimeWire. Oh, what a load of viruses that was. Yeah, when you're saying about like liner notes, like when you like buy vinyl now, do you still check them out and like read the bands and see who they're? Because I noticed, I think a lot of newer vinyls, they don't seem to have quite as many in the way of thank yous, but
depends on how quickly they've got to get it out, because pressing plants and stuff, if pressing plants are snowed under, then think about the people printing the inserts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've always used that quite a lot. My sort of, I didn't mention before, my gateway band was actually sort of Sponge. I heard them randomly on like Steve Lamacq and went out and brought the Story So Far. And that obviously had like a list of all the bands from like Household Name and Moonscar and Deck Cheese and all those sort of bands. And that's how I found my way into it. So yeah, that's sort of, I found Sponge and then sort of went outwards with just punk and ska in general. Like, because I know my gateway to punk was ska, but it wasn't through like bands like The Real Big Fish or Less Than Jake or the Boss Tones. It was Sponge. I think that's very backwards for how you do it these days.
Awesome.
I disagree. Yeah. I think that's better, because I mean, I think it's better. I'm very fussy with ska, but bands like Sponge did it for me because it had that kind of pop punk, occasionally harder side to it. And there was enough guitars, but when they were actually doing ska and albeit the odd sort of reggae beat, it wasn't just the same. Hey, look, I'm happy in doing this like Real Big Fish. I'm not bashing Real Big Fish. It's not for me. But I completely see the appeal. But that kind of was that third wave ska, was it Real Big Fish? I think.
Yeah, third wave.
That kind of like American ska, which was kind of more ska-esque than actual ska, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then again, I would say that because I'm British, and a lot of it started. We got. Obviously, it all came over from Jamaica and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of the early sort of British Jamaican bands and the mixing stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether I had a bit more of an ear for it because it was when I was still finding stuff. So when I found Sponge, I was like, 100%. That's way better.
Good.
Yeah.
I definitely. What were you listening to before that?
I wasn't like my mum is a massive Elvis fan. So
amazing.
I got to listen to a lot of Elvis as a kid. Like, there's genuinely
got to, or you subjected to?
I was in the house and the youngest. So, but like genuinely in her house now, she has more photos of Elvis up than she has of me. Which is kind of sad. But then like a lot of my
Colin.
Please, no, we're not allowed. We're not allowed. Don't do that. Don't give me your germs. But then like my friends, like they were into a lot of guitar music stuff, like indie, like Ash, Feeder, that kind of thing. So that's why I was listening to Steve Lamacq.
Okay.
Oh, same, yeah. Ash and Feeder.
Yeah. And for some reason, Sponge were played on Steve Lamacq, and I was like, okay, this is me. And then off we went.
That 1977 album was amazing. That Puke party thing at the end of that album. Do you remember that? The bonus.
It's been a while since I listened to it.
There was that bonus part on the album where I think it's like the drummer's just vomiting down a microphone. It was something like that. It was definitely Ash 1977. It was I thought it was the most like rock and roll thing I'd ever heard back in the day. But
well, Ash and Feeder are interesting, weren't they? Because they were kind of that post-grunge
Brit rock.
It was alternative rock, like under an umbrella, but it was had a lot of grunge to it, and it had a lot of pop punk, and especially Ash.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Stylistically speaking, there was a lot of like punk rock legacy in there, and I think when I heard that, when I was kind of transitioning from that and indie rock into pop punk, and then obviously, like I explained earlier, I remember Ash and Feeder being a big thing, and even when I was massively into punk like, a few years later, like I said, from the Isle of Wight, and my parents live in the house that's opposite the Isle of Wight festival site. Which is the house I grew up in. So I'd go to the festival most years. The festival, as it's known down there. I'd always go and see Ash and Feeder if they were playing, every time. And they were always just kind of that right level of, this is kind of mainstream, but there's so much punch to it.
But there's an edge to it.
Yeah, it's so much of a lineage and a legacy. It was just kind of, this is the kind of stuff that, I suppose, looking back at it now, I needed that, because a lot of the more melodic and rocky stuff that I now like, when I'm not listening to stuff that's 250 beats per minute, is kind of a bit like that. So I needed that, I think.
Were you much of a fan of like Biffy Clyro and stuff like that?
But I couldn't get. I tried.
Was that a bit too late?
Yeah. Or? So like this was around the time that sort of Kings of Leon were getting big and Biffy Clyro were getting big, and their earlier stuff had that kind of not post-punk as in like post-punk genre, but that kind of, you know, had a lot of lineages to punk rock and like 90s alt rock and stuff. So that I would like, but then I'd hear a song that was a bit more mainstream, more indie, and not indie with a punch, just like the kind of flat guitars that, you know, for me. And I'm like, I'm gone now. I'm not interested. And like, I think one of the worst things I saw was at the Isle of Wight Festival. Biffy were playing, and I went to watch them because I was with some friends that likes them, and my brother liked them, my little brother. So he was like, "Well, go watch them." I was like, "All right." And one of the things that put me off is, obviously we've all been in mosh pits in our time, and you have fun, but you got to make sure you're aware of who
you're aware of your surroundings and other
you
people.
try not to lose your rag, or there's an etiquette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was watching these kids like Mosh to Biffy, and they were just quite literally just beating the living daylights out of each other, and I was just like, and I jumped in and pulled out my mate's little brother because my mate was drunk, he didn't notice, so I had to jump in and pull him out. It was only a nipper, but that really put me off Biffy. Remember that day?
I suppose that's not really their fault that if they're fans.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But I was in this period where my music taste was sort of kind of like that. And
Are you sure it wasn't Hatebreed that you were watching?
Yeah.
It looked like Hatebreed. I know that's not the band's fault at all. But it's just one of those early memories I've got of gigs and live shows where you just see something that sort of sticks with you.
Yeah.
So I did try again on Biffy a few sort of weeks later, but by that point, I think I must have already discovered something quite fast and heavy by that point. I was like, no, I prefer this.
Yeah. Like, how do you all find music sort of nowadays then?
Mine kind of it started with Spotify when I kind of got back into listening to a lot of stuff. But lately it's more I find a lot of stuff on Bandcamp, and then if I, like we were talking earlier with the Fat Wreck and Epitaph and Asian Man Records, I think I tend to find like a label, and then I'll just kind of listen to, if they've got a compilation or something, I'll just listen to what's on there and then just kind of pick up bands that I like. Like at the moment I'm really into Dead Broke Records out in New York, so I'm really into their comps and what they're bringing out at the moment. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. So it's more like kind of the gruff punk kind of awkward beard punk stuff that I'm kind of more into at the moment. But saying that, I kind of really like the Somerset Thrower record that's just come out. So yeah, that's kind of got more of like an alt 90s kind of Silverchair kind of my visual kind of vibe, I think, to it than the kind of beardy punk stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of into. And then I think, like, obviously you look at the British or the European distros for them then, so like Yo-Yo Records or like even like Brass Neck Records as well. And then I'll just kind of maybe scroll through their shop and see, and just kind of maybe have a look on Bandcamp for the bands that they're selling too. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. I get a lot of tabs open on Chrome.
You're one of those million tabs.
Oh, it's terrible.
It is. It stresses me out. My best friend does it, and I have to go and close them when he's not looking.
Yeah, you got to, because they just stay open for days otherwise.
Right, Matt, how are you finding new stuff?
Well, this is difficult for me because of what, and Colin, I think will probably resonate with me a bit here, because of what we do and what I do. My discovery can be quite limited, and my leisure listening can be quite limited, and it's hard to find that balance. So through I get some quite interesting emails, to say the least. I know, Colin, we've talked about it recently. But I'll get a lot of stuff and I'll check that out, or I'll see stuff that other people are raving about. I'll see what Colin's reviewing or what he's writing, for example, or like AJ from the punk site or whatever. I'll see stuff come up in the social media verse and I'll check it out, or through my own emails and stuff and requests. And Spotify, I don't really use the discovery stuff very much. I do occasionally. I don't really use my daily mix much. I listen to my release radar once a week because I use it to help with my playlist curation. But stuff just people mention to me. But again, a lot of it is, I didn't discover the band Heathcliff until about middle of last year. And I had their new album early, and it came out yesterday. So I was really lucky to get that early. And that's because I think it was Ray from Drunk Tank, who I'm quite good friends with, just mentioned it to me. And then Bernie got hold of me. It was like, do you want to have our new single early? This was last year. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then I'm quite into Heathcliff now. But when I'm looking for stuff, I don't remember the last time I scrolled through Bandcamp and looking for new stuff, unless it was with a directive, like just not casually. So I'm always doing something. Or I'll just, make a mental note of someone that suggested something, and then I'll give that a go. So it honestly varies. Like, it's not really, that was a really garbled answer. I apologise. But I can't really tell you until I'm doing it.
Yeah. With Bandcamp, like, as you say, I obviously, like you, I get sent stuff, but I make a point of at least once a fortnight of spending a couple of hours on Bandcamp just looking for stuff that I like, so it's not...
Yeah.
Because I'm very, very much like, I get more invested in something if it's something I found rather than something someone's told me about.
Oh, yeah, no, that's exactly, yeah. No, I just remembered, I do actually have a habit of looking at label pages, so it goes back to what Lara said as well. And Pook on for like Rad Girlfriend Records, for example. I only discovered the House Ghost, even though they'd mentioned it a few times, House Ghost and the Starter Jacket split they did last year, which actually finally arrived, a couple of days ago, just by having a look. Because I like this label, I love the Raging Nathans, I look at the other stuff, and I was like, oh wow, this is, So I do it, but because I basically write almost every day, I think a lot of it is capitalised on by that. So it's kind of a bit when I get the time.
What about you, Pook?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of I think I'm kind of speaking more on the ska punk side of things, really. But I think there's a lot of exciting new up and coming bands at the moment. My only critique at the moment, I would say, is it's not a lot of really the younger bands. When I first started playing music when it was when I was 12, 13 years old, and I really want to see some of the younger people, because it's going to get to a point I'm in my late 30s now. I'm not going to be doing this.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to play for that much longer without throwing my back out. But
not the way you play as well.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. yeah, but I really want to see some of the younger lot give it a go. I always seem to see a lot of the people. I think you kind of maybe mid-late 20s, but I want to see some really, really young people start to get involved in playing music, and just more kind of be welcomed into the scene. Really, I'd love to see that, some proper up and coming people, always kind of pass the torch on to, if you know what I mean. Be
I think it's definitely there.
Do this.
It's definitely there, but I think it's less visible, and I don't know whether the whole COVID thing is really putting people off, because
definitely.
I keep an eye on the Isle of Wight music scene a little bit, and it's a lot of the music isn't really for me, but I've reviewed the Odd Band there, and there are a lot of gigs and a lot of people really trying. It's only a little place, so I think it's quite a niche example, but it's definitely there. But
what's big there at the moment then?
The last time I looked into it, it was mainly indie bands, and there was a few punk and hardcore bands poking their head up. Indie rock seems to be the ubiquitous sort of stylistic down there.
Sweet.
But I know exactly what you mean, because I wrote about this band called Play Dead recently, this garage punk band from London, and they're really, really good, but they're only nippers. I don't think they're older than 18.
That's amazing.
That
is amazing.
Yeah.
I think it definitely is there, but I don't know whether we're now blind to it because of the last 12 months, over 12 plus months, if you know what I mean? And we just, a lot of the people like ourselves that in one way or another are involved in the scene, we've held on because we know how to hold on because we've been in it for longer. But maybe people just starting out are it doesn't matter anyway or whatever. Or they're so disenfranchised by the situation that maybe then they're not kicking up as much of a fuss. I'm sure they're there.
I'd like to think, hopefully, that with all these lockdowns and with all these furloughs, it will probably encourage the kids to delve into something a bit new, exciting and unheard of for themselves, and to just kind of go a bit out of their comfort zone a little bit. I think people in general, when you're at that young age and you're trying to find yourself and try and find somewhere where you belong. And when you're going down that avenue of music, you're like for me, as I stepped away from the glam of metal and all that kind of spandex malarkey. Did you picture me wearing spandex? but going down that, and then all of a sudden going into from watching TV of arena rock shows, and all of a sudden finding this basement show and just feeling like you belong somewhere. I don't know, man. I really want to see people try and delve out of their comfort zones a little bit and take a few risks.
Do you think it's a bit different now than it was when we were younger? Because kids today have got a lot more they can do to waste their time.
It's oversaturated. There's too much to do, 100%.
Yeah. Well, making us sound really old now.
I think it's from a musical perspective, I think it's very technology heavy. I mean, I was chatting to Ash, the guitarist in Redeemon, and he told me, and my jaw hit the floor. He was like, "This is the first time I've been on a recording with live drums," and I was like, "You what?" And he's been in bands he teaches music, and he's there going "Yeah, this is the first time I've been on." And yeah, it sounds all right. I'm like, "So what are you using?" Triggers. I'm like, well, the drummer must have a right good old time in the studio. It's like, I don't have to set anything up or anything. It's, I think I don't know. I love when I listen to music. I love that human error, that human kind of touch. And I like, not mistakes, but it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's got the passion in it. It doesn't have to be auto-tuned or any of that. God, I am showing my age now, but it's yeah, that's where I kind of like to see people just take a bit more risk.
Yeah.
Right, but we'll get timed out in a little while. So Matt, do you want to do an advert for ear nutrition before we go to the?
Well, I've already
the
talked
break?
everybody's ears off.
Go for it. While you're here.
A good thing. Yeah, so I write for Ear Nutrition, and my goal is to unearth and review and critique and feature and just throw a bit of light on a lot of underground guitar music. So a lot of stuff we've been talking about. Yeah, it ranges from punk rock is my base, and it's probably about a third to 2/3 of my content. But I explore a lot of like progressive stuff and indie stuff, and through reviews, features, and interviews. Less so on the interviews, but I'm hoping to get some more out soon. And yeah, it's just more of a tool. Like I never learned to play an instrument, so I want to give back in my own way. And if I can, you know, if 2 people to 100 people or 800 people, whatever, read something I've wrote, and they're like, oh, that's a new band, but I'm going to go check that out, or I'm going to go and play something like that, like we've just been talking, then I've done my job.
You've made a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. Like I think me and Colin have talked at length about some of the difficulties and stuff, but yeah, I want to give back, really. I want to help people derive the same amount of joy and safety and escapism that I've had from it.
That's exactly why I started doing CPRW. Give back.
That's beautiful, definitely. That's
how we keep punk going, really, isn't it? By keep giving back. So
yeah, I mean, I posted a review on the new Drones album today, by the way. So those listening, so obviously you'll hear it after it's probably.
Yeah, this isn't live, Matt. This podcast, we're recording this.
I am aware, but yeah. So yeah, check out that. For example, I posted that today, or whenever you do end up listening to this, because that's out on the 12th of February. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, we'll be back in 1 second, and we'll just take a quick break. Right. Welcome back to the CPRW podcast. We're talking about like why people. Well, we haven't spoken about this at all really yet, but just what? Yeah.
Just why?
Why? And why don't people listen to new music? Because I see from like a lot of like Instagram posts and like posting like Facebook groups, people always talking about the bands from the 90s and not the bands that are coming through now. And like, why is that? Because they're just as good.
Isn't there a page dedicated to that in the old Facebook?
Probably.
Those 90s skate punk bands, or those
there are.
Those awesome 90s punk bands.
Yeah, I haven't entered that one because I'm not sure I've got the patience. But,
yeah, so like, why is it, do you think, that people are reluctant to check out new stuff, or why don't people?
That's a question, isn't it? I think I don't know. Sorry, go on.
Where do you start with that? I mean,
yeah, it's multifaceted at best.
This is why it's a good podcast topic.
I think, in some ways, you know the saying, music is like a drug. I think a lot of that when you were young, that first fix, like it's amazing how you can remember the first show that you ever went to because it was new, it was fresh, and it was exciting, and you're always kind of trying to go for that same fix, if you know what I mean, like that adrenaline rush of seeing a live sweaty show. And I kind of feel like people will relate not so much the experience, but they'll relate those bands, they'll pigeonhole that band to that experience. So as an example, why Lester Jake would like do their 20th anniversary shows of each individual album and stuff, because it takes them back to that time when probably they first discovered that band, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember those days when I was at school, and it's yeah, it's very I don't know, man. Like, I find it a shame because there are some phenomenal bands that are coming out from all different genres that just don't see the light of day because people are too busy kind of, they're clutching onto the past, onto the youth. And I think if you go down that sort of rabbit hole, there's no chance of progression in life. You go down the whole.
Oh, mate, like the amount of times I've argued with people in Facebook groups that very point is just countless.
It's crazy, man. Like there's like this for me. There's nothing better than like that vibe of discovering a new band, however you came across it, like whether it was at a show or you saw a thank you list, so you checked out the album. Nothing can beat it. Nothing can beat it, especially like it sounds like my old days, but like pre-internet, everyone was like, oh my god, how did you find out this band from Japan that nobody's heard of? Or
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mail order.
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting for it to come. I'll never forget one time when I was backpacking and I was in Spain. Now there was a band called Pot Shot, and I absolutely loved them. And I literally was like the last week on this holiday in Spain. I've been searching for this vinyl for years, and one of my friends showed it to me and was like, "You've been looking for this record, right?" And I kid you not, I literally jumped over the vinyl shelving rack to just grab it, to just hold it. But like, yes, I've got it. You can't now. It's just Amazon. Yeah, next day delivery. We're so spoiled with technology now, as well. But yeah, that's the beginnings of it. I feel at least. So.
Do you think there's an argument? What you're saying about we use Less Than Jake. We've got Less Than Jake. Why do we need to find someone else who sounds similar to Less Than Jake?
Oh, you've hit the nail on the head for me.
Yeah,
man. That was one of the arguments. Why would you? This is why I would love to see bands think out of the box and do something. Try something different, man. Try and find your own sound. Instead of going, we like these three bands, why not go, do you know what? I love like Dimmu Borgir, Cliff Richard, and the Spice Girls. Let's try something new. And like, okay, that's very extreme, but you know what I mean. But
I want to hear that band.
Yeah, me too.
Being wannabe, holy moly. Yes, like, do you know what I mean? But like, take those kind of genres, because sure as hell nobody else has tried that before. There is a chance that you could come up with something, excuse my language, but fucking phenomenal. And everyone's just like, oh my god. Like,
is that where Beat the Red Light kind of comes from? Because no one was doing that like heavy sort of scarcore at the time, like thrashy.
Dude, like we literally wanted. I remember actually emailing Jonna. He was in a band called Grogan, and he was living in Suffolk at this point. And I described it to him as Cradle of Filth meets Less Than Jake. I was like, that was like, I was like, Cradle of Filth meets Less Than Jake. And he was like, what? Yes. Because he could do all the guitar. He loved ska, but he could do all the finger tapping and the sweep picking and stuff like that. And
Are you sure you weren't speaking to Richmond from the IT crowd?
I wish I was, but yeah, like yeah. But it was honestly though, everyone went up. I remember telling, like, I gathered all the band members, and everyone was like, "That just sounds stupid. That sounds ridiculous." So in the end, because I had it pictured in my head, but in the end, I had to do like a little solo demo thing, just to kind of go, "Look, you can do it. It will work." It's just whether people like it or not is another thing. But it just seemed to go like that. But with Redeemon now, the new band that we're doing, we're throwing in anything and everything. We're throwing in like loads of avant-garde jazz thrown in there, and like basically anything goes. If it works, it works. really. There's no point limiting yourself to, oh, we only play this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I completely agree with you. I think I am an advocate for you play what feels natural to you. You know,
100%.
and if you want to play the same style that's gone on for 30 years, yeah, great. Just, it's kind of like, if you do a good job, why does it matter, in my opinion?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah, equally, why, pardon my own language, why the fuck not? You know, it's you know, again, to bring up Heathcliff earlier, like, there's a lot of ska and reggae influence, right? And they're like a sort of thrash-infused, heavy metal-infused skate punk band, right? So they can go from like, yeah, it's like, so they're like, basically they've got that kind of archetypical 90s skate punk sound, the late 90s, like the kind of cigar adhesive kind of style. And then they've got a lot of mute, so a lot of the metalisms that mute put into the genre.
Metalisms.
Metalisms, yeah. That's like, and then they I think it's Bernie specifically, but a lot of them, they like reggae and ska. So I was listening to the album today, and I was going on my allocated walk, and you know, it was skate punk, then it was kind of thrashy skate punk, and then it was pure heavy metal, and then it was like a reggae beat, and it was back to skate punk again. Yeah. And like, as much as a lot of what Heathcliff were doing is again quite archetypical within the tech punk scene of the last 10 years, there's that random like reggae and ska beat for absolutely no reason.
So are they called Heathcliff?
Heathcliff.
So like
the
Cliff
cat.
Richard album. There's a Cliff Richard
Yeah. So
album
Heath, as in Heath, Cliff.
Amazing.
They're really, really good. Their new album came out yesterday, but it's proper fast, proper Aggie stuff. Really well written lyrics, really technical. They're kind of like heart on their sleeve, sort of Bad Religion sort of style. Man. This is what's wrong, so we're going to sing about it and be like, this shouldn't be happening, sort of stuff. Like, it's proper good. I recommend it. But yeah, like, if it ain't broke, you don't need to fix it, but you can.
No.
Like, there's always
adapt.
You want to. Yeah, exactly. Adapt or overcome. But
yeah.
But it's very much that. And I think people kind of, I mean, I do it. Like, I mean, my record collection, a lot of it is older stuff. There's a lot of newer stuff now. The newer stuff probably outweighs the older stuff now. Eventually, that's happened. But you know, I can see a Dead Kennedys record, a Minor Threat record, an old Red Hot Chili Peppers album, and Adrenalized from where I'm sat, and then the new album from House Ghost. So like, people like the old sort of heartwarming nostalgia, because that's what got them into music. So they're going to every single person goes into nostalgia at some point in their life. Even the most
100%.
Even the most forward-looking music fan, you know, and like you said earlier, like discovering.
We're all guilty of it.
Yeah, discovering a new band. Like I discovered a new band a couple of days ago. I knew them. Like, a band called The Migraine. So like, they're quite famous, but I've never listened to them at length. Like, in the Southwest kind of punk and hardcore scene. And I was listening to this Migraines album just on repeat, walking around Bath yesterday, and you know, I was like, wow, I've never properly listened to them. This is new. It's fantastic. And then afterwards, I started listening to some Raging Nathan's EPs that I don't have physically, which I've been out for a while now. So that was that kind of hybridized sort of listening session, as it were. But you're always going to go back to what you love. It's comforting. And like, you know, if you're collecting vinyl, which I'm sure Colin's going to go on to in a bit, you know, a lot of that is older stuff. Like Lara, you were saying on the last podcast that we were all on together, you know, going back to the stuff I used to like. And that was stuff that you listened to when you were younger. And yet you go, oh, they've got a vinyl now, I'll get that. Like, it's always going to be there. But then again, I think you kind of touched upon it, the whole oversaturated, there's so much of it as well. It's even, that kind of puts people off. It's like, oh, you know, I could sit and listen to Suffer by Bad Religion again, or I could check out a new band. Oh, it's already on, I'll just leave it on.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And like you were saying earlier as well, like, you know, you don't get a lot of sort of leisure listening time. I think for a lot of people, especially people like kind of, I guess, our age, like sort of the older kind of 30 plus or whatever. Like,
I'm not quite there yet. I've got
okay,
three months of being 20 in my 20s left.
Oh, let's excuse my language.
So young.
Fuck you.
Yeah, 13 April.
I'm now halfway to 70.
Got nothing to look forward to but saga and luxury cruises.
And back pain.
Oh my.
Yeah, back pain.
Yeah. But I think kind of like when you get to that sort of age, it's like, it's whether, you know, whatever responsibilities you've got, it's harder to find the time to actually sit down and listen to music because there's always something else going on. Like I'll find I only really listen to music when I go out running. And unless kind of I have stuff on in the background at work, which will be like a playlist or something, or like a comp or whatever. And that's kind of where I'll find new stuff. But I think generally, like, whenever I just assume it now, but I think when you do get time to sit down and listen to music, you want to go with something that you know you're safely going to like and enjoy. So people can think, well, I know I like No Effects, or I know I like Bad Religion or whatever, so I'll sit down and listen to that, rather than going to find something, spending that 1 hour spare that you've got finding something that you might not like. People might not want to kind of like spend their time doing that. That might be a reason as well, you know, kind of not having enough time to do it, I suppose.
So that's part of it, is people obviously getting older and having proper grown-up responsibilities like wives and children, or
House bills and mortgages.
Yeah,
and
gotta work.
Yeah.
So that's
Existential crises.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All of those. So that's, I guess, a big reason because people don't have time to do it, which is a shame, because if it's something you loved as a kid or when you were younger days, you should love it as an adult and should be able to find the time.
Yeah. If you truly love something, you don't grow out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at least, even if it's a small part of you, that small part of you will hang on to it.
I mean,
I think to varying degrees. But
to go back a bit as to what we were saying before about there's not that many sort of younger bands around at the moment. I feel like a part of that is like we've got a bit of a joke with a promoter friend who I name all the time, so I'm not going to name him this time. He doesn't deserve more plugging. We have
nice.
We have a love you really, Paul. We have a bit of a joke about like skate punk shows and how you'll only get like nine white dudes there, and that's I guess for younger bands
that's different in Europe though, I think. From what I've seen.
Definitely. Yeah. But for younger bands then who wanting to obviously come up and be a band, if they're playing shows to like 3 people, it's not as exciting as it when you pick up an instrument in your head. You're playing to arenas full of like thousands of people. That's the dream. But then you're playing
reality, mate.
This is it.
Reality.
I guess because obviously older people have more responsibilities. They can't go to every single show or can't go to the whole show. Maybe only have time for the headline. So these younger bands aren't coming through because they're just getting disenfranchised, which is I think that's a shame.
My only thing I would say regarding that, Colin, is when you go to ska shows, the reason why there's more people at ska shows is because you're playing to the other ska bands, which has like
36 members.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you sold out already.
Yeah,
reach capacity.
If you play with Just Say Nay, that's most of the room full in it. So
yeah.
I remember their album launch show. Did you go to their album launch show at New Cross?
No, sadly I didn't.
So
it was phenomenal.
They sold that out, and we were sort of having a bit of a joke that's because they've all brought all of their family members and all of their friends, because there's that many members in that band. That's filling up New Cross.
Yeah.
But
what's the capacity at New Cross?
350.
Oh, is it 350?
Quite a lot.
I think it's 350. Yeah, I think they're allowed more if they include the little bar downstairs. Take that into account, but Paul doesn't tend to count that, I don't think, because he's a good promoter who likes a safe show. Giving him love again. Oh dear. Yeah.
Nah, safety first. Punk rock, that is it.
It's not at all.
When did punk rock get so safe?
I hate that so much now, because every time like No Effects especially do something that's stupid, you're gonna get some fans that when did punk get so safe when people call them out.
Well, you started listening to it, you idiot.
Yes.
Do
you think as well, like, there's obviously people aren't listening to as much new music because it hasn't got the exposure like it once had at like say like a Reading festival like Leeds. Obviously, used to have the lock-up stage, which is like 2 days of punk music, and that doesn't exist anymore.
I think society's gotten. Society's at a point where it's going. It's gone. Basically, society's kind of gone like underground DIY music and alternative music. So you can include like your Fats and your Epitaph and that, because they've just done the DIY thing and made it kind of big. Like they've made it work for themselves. And fair fucking play to them. Mm-hmm. But I think society as a whole, especially with just about anything sort of social, has gone really conservative one way and really ultra liberal progressive the other way. And I think a lot of what the mainstream, which masquerades itself as being quite progressive, it really isn't. Because if you look at things like music festivals and what's put on the radio and what's, you know, anything like alternative, people with like coloured hair or tattoos or whatever, is, even though it's like meant to be applicable and mainstream and stuff, when it comes to music, if you look at all the money that's put behind ad campaigns, if you look at the kind of music, not knocking it, if you like a lot of R&B and hip hop and like pop music and stuff, fair play, like you like what you like. But I think a lot of the money and attention is put behind that. And then that then capitalizes on things like Spotify and Apple Music and Deezer and all these things that have got adverts on, which means that the DIY scene survives because it looks after itself, which is fantastic, but it's still going to struggle. Mm. It's like the whole thing, not going too much into it, but the whole UK tour visa thing. There were like 8 people sat in that debate in the Commons, like, and that petition got through because petitions do work and they have been working the last couple of years. And yet no one debated it because it's not in the limelight. Like, it's kind of that Radio 1 generation, like the mainstream side of Radio 1, rather than the shows that separates off into, where unless you hear it, it doesn't exist. Like, people say to me, I've never heard of that band in your t-shirt. Well, yeah, well, of course you haven't, because you don't listen to that sort of stuff, which is absolutely fine. But that's not the contentious point in that. The contentious point in that is that what is deemed profitable and acceptable is what's cast forth. And I think that's just how the mainstream works. And even though I think there's a lot of inroads being made, I think that kind of generic one-size-fits-all blanket way of looking at society, because everyone is so busy these days. Like, modern life is so busy. Like, you know, the generation we're all a part of is so busy, and there's so many things to worry about. And I think music and art, even though there's more of it and you can go and find it easier, I think as like a general thing, when you take all of the external factors into play, is finding it harder because the money is elsewhere. And part of that is capitalism. Part of that is free market. Like, there's a lot that you could talk about this for hours, but I think a lot of awareness is being, fair enough. Like, you know, you see adverts for like if like Cardi B releases a new song, or I'm trying to think of someone else now, shows how out of touch I am. You know what I mean? someone big and popular.
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, yeah, that's a good example. Or like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, okay, didn't do anything for years, and then does one thing, and it's like boom. And yet you've got artists putting out music constantly that are getting less of it. Like the guy from Spotify was like, artists should put out more music, and then I'll make more money. Like, that's an abhorrent thing to say. I use Spotify, I'm not going to say. It's a great music discovery tool, and that's what it should be first. I think I would happily pay more money on my monthly subscription. Like, I'd pay like, what is it now? It's a tenner at the moment, I think. Yeah. I'd pay like 15 or more if I knew that it's just my friends
would get more.
Yeah, like my friend's band, just to plug them quickly, Drag Me Down, who are a really interesting sort of punk kind of concoction. It's kind of like skate punk, lots of different versions of pop punk, and then like some heavier stuff at the other end. So it's kind of quite cool stuff. And they've done really well off Spotify. They've managed their social media campaigns fantastically. But not everyone is clued up. And not everyone is that lucky because of the way stuff works, you know? So like they're plugging away and doing all this stuff, and yet someone famous, because they're established, it's like boom. It's like all these old musicians that have got loads of money and are absolutely fine moaning about this EU tour visa thing. It's like, you didn't care when it was just underground bands suffering, like they do every single bloody day. But the moment that, you know, your privilege is challenged, and the way you've you've made money off music, again, fair fucking play, is a problem, you start piping up about it, and it's all a money game. Yeah. And it's just, sorry, I've just been getting really wound up.
No.
I'm gonna like edit that clip down and use that as a trailer.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was loving it.
Sorry.
Me too.
I've got a lot of time to
Matthew. Vote for Matthew. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think money exposure, it's all like I think that plays a part, because no one wants to do anything unless it's in front of them. And we're all guilty of it to a point, because that's the way society is. You know, think about the way we do social media. Like, you try and post your link as soon as possible. You don't do as much of a blurb. You post an image instead of, you know, your video's got to be a certain length. All these reasons and algorithmic sort of processes is even affecting how we operate as analog individuals now. It's not just a digital thing. Like, it's the 21st century digital boy thing. Like, it's just like, it should be an anthem for it. You know, it's just.
I miss the old days of like picking up a vinyl. And inside that, I know, I'm gonna name drop, like TNS Records, Household Name Records. Yeah, they all throw a flyer in there. Done. Love it. Yeah, that's all I want. Look at it. I'm just like, right, okay, cool. Brief description. If I dig it, spot on, scope it out, and if it's just like a part like this does not interest me whatsoever, then next. But I really like the feeling of like you're using your own initiative instead of you're made to feel you're using your own initiative, but really you're not, because Spotify go, oh, you like these bands, you should check out this band, and
it's all the same bands that they bring back to you as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned this in a previous podcast, Colin, I think, when we were talking about playlists. And like I found that whenever I get to the end of like an album, or I get to the end of like a set playlist or whatever, Spotify will then start automatically playing songs to suggest to me, which is
I've taken that off.
But it's all the same songs. It always starts with the same song, and then the same songs follow it. It's like, well, you're not really giving me anything new if you just give me the same stuff all the time. You know, it's like, it's never anything, like I know exactly what song comes on now. So yeah, I don't.
So you know to press pause.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's useful. Like the whole Spotify algorithm, to focus on that as an example, is you know, pretty indomitable in the way it works. Like it is useful. Like you can't really beat
definitely.
it. But I think it only works if you're constantly inputting the same sort of stuff. But like, you know, like you say, you listen to new music when you're going for a walk or a run or whatever. You know, if you're listening to new stuff every time, it's going to generate the algorithms. Go, oh, that's different. I'll try and show you stuff like that. Yeah. But if you're to kind of tie together, if you're going back to your favorite album again, it's only going to show you this.
Well, that's it. So the running playlist and stuff it's all the same songs, and the stuff that I listen to that's more like new, I guess, is on like Bandcamp and stuff. Yeah. So I guess I don't really listen to the stuff on Bandcamp on Spotify unless I'm going to share it to Instagram, because on Bandcamp you can't do that onto your stories. So like that's the only way really that Spotify will know I'm listening to something else. So it's kind of like almost like too many kind of listening platforms.
Oh yeah.
I think people are. It sounds a bit harsh me saying this, but I think people can be super lazy when it comes to just trying to just try something new.
Yeah, I have that written down in my notes. Laziness.
It is. It's pure. Like, if you're listening to this and you listen to nothing but the same bands, you are lazy.
That's also there. You go. There's another trailer bit for it.
No excuse. You're lazy. You're a bad person. Your music taste is bad, and you should feel bad.
Yeah.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Like there's different sites for me checking out new bands, and then you've got like Lara was saying, like the band camps and things like that for scoping out new bands. That's wicked. Spotify, I find I've started to make like little playlists depending on what sort of mood I'm in.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they branch off on that. Like if I have like my music, I'll listen to anything. Like I've got, if you look in my work van, I've got like CDs of like Slayer next to Len Goodman's Swooners and Crooners. It all literally just depends on what mood I'm in. Yes, I am a fanalo to Barry Manilow. But yeah, I literally I think it's so yeah, I'll make a playlist of whatever mood I'm into. And you know what? A lot of the time, when I'm discovering like a new, I wouldn't say new genre, but I was getting into a band. Like, if you guys have heard of like Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats,
yeah,
I really was getting into them about 3-4 years ago. Phenomenal band, really simple, very kind of droney, but Black Sabbathy kind of vibe. But Spotify was then introducing me to loads of different bands. I came across like bands like Beastmaker and stuff like that. It was just phenomenal. So I did find it, there have been times where I found you like this, you should check this out, really handy. But if there's a genre of music that I have done to death, that they're not gonna be able to show me anything that I haven't heard already.
Or it's something that sounds exactly like what you've heard, so you're kind of less inclined to.
Yeah. Sounds like a shit kicking pigeons. Next. That's the way that I kind of see it. But yeah, I think Lara hit the nail on the head, like using different tools for scoping out new acts and stuff like that. definitely.
I reckon Spotify is better if you're brand new to a genre and want to find what's good and like what's popular in that genre. Then Spotify is probably the best thing for it. But I think for discovering brand new stuff from a genre you're already very knowledgeable on, Bandcamp is just streaks ahead because it has got the more obscure stuff on there that I guess I know some bands are quite resistant, I guess, to, or especially smaller bands, maybe don't feel like they have any point being on Spotify because they're not going to make any money from it. So what's the point of going on there in the first place?
Yeah. And I think the other very important thing is you got to be honest with yourself, and if there's a band that you listen to, you keep going back for more and more and more, you've got to support that band.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You've got to front the money with it. There's too many people. I've had work colleagues go, "Oh, have you listened to this band?" I'll be like, "Oh, no, I haven't." They'll go, "Oh yeah, I've got the album here," and they'll just go straight on Spotify. And you're just like, "Oh right, if you bought the album, oh no, I'll just stream it." It's just like, "Oh, dude, come on!" Like they don't see a penny of it, and I think it is really important. I think there was one good marketing move going back to Lightyear, which I think they did. They removed a track off one of their albums that they uploaded for streaming, so you can't listen to the whole album. So to get the whole album, you have to buy it.
Download only, like after buying it on Bandcamp or like vinyl only or CD only. Like I quite like that sort of stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nice little surprise that.
I bought a vinyl recently by a hardcore band that I quite like called Kicked in the Teeth, who are UK based. Can never remember where. That's really bad. But they released a 5-inch vinyl, and I've only got 2 of those now. I got the Pizza Tramp Domestics one that TNS did, and my turntable's automatic, so trying to get it to play is a struggle. It's possible. It's possible. But yeah, I've got this like 5-inch vinyl, and they've not released those tracks to streaming. So if I want to listen to those, I've got to wrestle my turntable for however long. But like I think that kind of like the same with tapes and stuff. Like I'm trying to look for a decent tape deck. I haven't really got the space in my flat, but I'm going to try and look for one. I've got a few tapes now that I've bought at shows, or I've bought so I can get the download code for Bandcamp or whatever just to support them. I don't have a tape deck, but
mixtapes.
I'll buy.
Nobody brought that up earlier. Mixtapes was a phenomenal way.
I used to make them when I was younger.
Yep.
I used to make my mate Tom. We used to call it a sex mix. It was songs that we thought that were bombastic, like just made you feel like, oh yeah, this is creme de la creme, mate. You need to scope out Silverchair Frog Stomp if you haven't already. Just listen to this track. It was like, mixtapes were the way forward, man. You used to draw a little front cover.
Yep.
Oh, wicked.
Insert. Yeah, no, I remember doing
I guess like the 2021 version of that though is making a playlist and then giving it to people.
Nah.
Oh, it's not as good.
No,
it's the way of doing it.
Nah, you could do one with your MP3 playlist. Don't get me wrong, I love a playlist. Give me something physical. You've spent time putting it together, not click and drag. Yeah, that will do.
I mean, the problem with that is that we've got to be careful that we don't come across as some sort of super race of vinyl snobs. We're not too careful.
That's what we are, aren't we?
Right, I've done.
Well, we're going to have another break now before we get timed out again. So I'll do an advert. Yesterday, CPRW Records, or I say yesterday, on the 22nd of January, and depending on whenever this goes out, we released our first comp of the year, Hidden Gems, which was raising money for Lifeline for Kids. It's still available. It's 28 songs of bands that you've probably never heard of, so you should check out because these are new bands coming up. So that ties in nicely with this. That was well done, wasn't it? So that's on our Bandcamp page. Please go check that out. Thanks. So I'll be back in 1 second. Right, hello and welcome back to the third and final part of the CPRW podcast. We're still joined by Pook, Lara and Matt, and we're still talking about why people don't listen to new music. Like something, when I was thinking about this earlier, was another reason, like we don't, because what's the way? Like when we were younger, or like in the I guess
the good old days.
The good old days, like I guess like the early 2000s. We obviously on Radio 1 you had the Lock Up Show. And which I think for all of us was a very good way of discovering new bands, especially because they actually played UK DIY ones as well, which I always thought was amazing. So
isn't that the one they pushed later and later? And eventually they pushed it to like 1 a.m. and then axed it.
oh, I think it started
But that was
quite...
Yeah, I think so,
Mike
yeah.
Davies' show, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. I think it started quite late and then went to like 9
It was like
o'clock.
9.
Yeah. And then went, because Mike moved back to LA, didn't he? And that's why they started doing it later, I guess. But yeah, I've discovered so many great bands through that show. And I don't think there's another show. I mean, I haven't listened to the radio in years, to be fair, so I could be very wrong. But I don't think there's another show that like plays just like speciality show is just punk rock music on a mainstream radio, which is probably a reason as to why people aren't discovering the new bands. I think the radio is, like we're saying about people being lazy. Well, if you just stick the radio on and it's playing your new bands, then you don't really have to
science people.
do anything, do you? That
Just does it
No,
all
it's
for
not.
you.
but I think it's a shame that we don't have shows on the radio anymore, but I'd assume they took them off for a reason.
I got to be honest, Colin, I think with technology these days, it doesn't make that much of a difference now. I never listen to the radio. I'll listen to a podcast. But I find a lot of, like, when you listen to BBC radio as an example, you listen to like the news and stuff, like it's just all bloody doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And it's just like you just want, all you want is just a little bit of help getting on with your day, getting on with life. You're just trying to be a bit happy, and then you just get the news going shit. Oh yeah, and here's Britney Spears, and you're just like, oh great, okay, this is new and exciting, and it's just, I just find like it can be really mundane and boring, and when there's why would I want to listen to the radio where that you could actually delve into? You could delve onto like a podcast or a like punk rock online show where it's people from the scene and they know their shit. They know their shit. They're delved right inside it. Like, why would you want to like go venture out, like kind of get the source from outside of it?
Well, that was the good thing about Mike Davis.
That
was the good thing about Mike Davis, though. He did know his stuff. Like, that was all like that. I think it'd be good to have something like that on a mainstream of someone who knows what they're talking about and is pushing these new bands. Obviously, I get your point. We don't want to listen to the news because doom and gloom. But
I kind of hear what you're saying. But at 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't even know my own name, let alone the names of the bands of what he's talking about. So it's just kind of like, I'm like, what, and I'm trying to stay awake. It's just about as useful as an inflatable dog.
Oh, it doesn't have to be on at 2 a.m, though. It can be on at like 7 at night. It's not, the time isn't there. Like, there's this wonderful thing where you can play back shows now as well, for like a podcast.
Well, yeah, now you can, but back then with the punk rock world, I don't think you could you? Unless you got the old classic cassette, could you?
Yeah, it was all online.
I've got, you're talking to a technophobe here, man.
Oh, yeah. This
is the guy's got his own IT support. So
I remember, this just reminded me, I don't know when this was exactly, but I was in my parents' kitchen, and Radio 1 were doing like a let's swap shows thing. And like my parents and my dad, like, I'll show him new bands, but he doesn't pay much attention really. But he he's like, oh, if it's so popular, why is it not on Radio 1? That's what he said to me once. I was like, idiot. But yeah,
they know better.
Well, they switched their shows out. So you had people that were playing alternative music on the mainstream show, and they were playing like "What's My Age Again," "Pretty Fly for a White Guy," all the songs that we know. And "Pretty Fly for a White Guy" is the worst track on that album. No, it's not. Why Don't You Get a Job is the worst track. Yeah, like that's actually quite a good album, other than the singles, other than The Kids Aren't Alright, which is forever a tune, and I will not hear a word against it. But so that was like I was trying to say earlier when I had my gargantuan rant. What is perceived to be kind of like alternative and new and like DIY or just not mainstream is not. It's definitely on the fringe, but it's not really there. So like you're not exactly going to hear Svalbard on the radio, are you? The middle of Radio 1, or like Not on Tour, or Poisonous Cunt or something like that. Like, so you're not going to hear bands like that. And I think because it's just not deemed radio worthy, which is silly. Because if you had radio shows and you've got a lot of underground radio shows,
I don't know, if you're called Poisonous Cunt, then you kind of got. Do you know what I mean?
You understand that was for dramatic effect, but you understand what I'm making. Like, if you had radio shows and podcasts that were more accessible, as much as we've all got a podcast we follow, and there are some radio shows that people like us do listen to, but if they were given not necessarily funding, but to sort of quantify what I'm trying to say, funding, that could then be pushed onto these radio shows. So like you could have the middle of the, horrible, dreary, gloomy news you were talking about, and then it goes on to your hour of sonic detritus that you've heard everywhere else, and then it's it's the new music show, and then it's about DIY punk bands or DIY indie bands, or to me it wouldn't matter what it was. If it was some indie band that have got like 30 likes on Facebook, they're fantastic, and they're on like a mainstream radio station that's compartmentalized into shows. A lot of these podcasts and shows that we listen to would do wonders.
I mean, I will give stations like Six Music props.
Like,
they really delve out into new stuff.
Yeah.
And some of their shows, I don't remember her name. The singer from Catatonia has
Terrace
a phenomenon.
Matthews.
That's it. She's on fire.
I was going to make that joke, but I thought I probably shouldn't.
we all know each other here. It's fine.
She's absolutely on fire, and that show is amazing.
Yeah.
And again, I will not hear a bad word about Catatonia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair play.
But yeah, six music I think is amazing. Yeah, it gets a bit doom and gloom with the news, but the news is news. But yeah, like on a musical spectrum, Six Music is a great way of discovering new, fresh music, and it doesn't have to be like, again, one specific genre, and that's what I love. Is like you get your African funk, you get your jazz, hip hop, New Orleans funk, bit of punk, and this, that, and the other. And it's just, if it works, it works.
I should probably listen to Six Music occasionally because I want to hear some African funk.
Do it. Amazing.
That's just a whole new sister blog for CPRW, African funk. What else have we got here that on my list of things? I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff now. So if you were a new band, or obviously Pook, you're in Redeemon, who I know you've obviously got your Beat Your Red Light sort of fan base built in, but how would you go about being a new band, trying to get heard by other people?
Do you know what? I had a bit of I really did not want to ride the Beat the Red Light coattails on it. But having said that, when you're playing a style of music that's kind of similar to it, half the band members are from Beat the Red Light. It's the inevitable. I'm finding it at the moment. It's a bit hard to tell with COVID, but we haven't played a gig for over a year now. I think the last time we played a show was Bristol for Fishlock. But yeah, it's like we dropped a single on Spotify and YouTube and all the other streaming sites. Just preparing people, like just letting them know that we are working on stuff, and it's. But I mean, to be honest, I kind of take everyone out of the equation, and I just keep it like, is it music that I love? Is it music that if I love it, then surely there must be other people that want to hear that kind of style of music. And do you know what? That's enough for me. I really like. We're going to get it pressed on vinyl, CD, and all the physical stuff later on in the year. It'll probably be on streaming sites, but I really want to focus like the Pookout label to be more on the physical aspect of everything. I want to kind of take it back a bit in that retrospect. But I just want to, at the end of the day, whether those vinyls or the CDs sell 10 or 100, or do you know what I mean? Like I'm happy with it. like I'm totally happy with it. And if people don't like it, people don't like it. Then fair enough. But if people do love it, then that's a bonus too. But yeah, I'm more about crafting the music that I want to hear than what the reaction's going to be about it. And I think I can't really like. I'm not. We at the end of the day, we've got full-time jobs. If we were trying to do it for the money,
Yeah.
we'd be doing the boring drug like just standard radio friendly hooky like
Written to an
tunes.
algorithm, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And don't get me wrong, there still are points where, from a label perspective, to make sure that it hits out of like to make sure anyone who we feel will be interested in it can scope it out. We have to check the algorithms and things like that to make sure that it spreads out, the word spreads about. But other than that, man, like I don't know, I literally just want to play a style of music that I love doing, and I love a lot of different styles of music, and it ticks all those boxes, and that's it, man. And just for me, the only thing I would say regarding technology that I have completely milked to its benefit is we managed to blag. Well, I say blag. We managed to get one of my all-time favorite musicians to actually join the band and be on the album, but he lives in America. So it kind of makes the gigs a bit hard in that retrospect, but he's done the whole thing, and I tracked him down and like messaged him and having him on there. And again, like even starting the band, like we had half the members of Beat the Red Light, but to get the other members involved, we had to use is it Bandmix, or there's a website where you use to find like other musicians who are into similar styles of music. But yeah, that's all it is for me. It's just that it's about having fun, playing genre of music that we all find interesting and enjoy, and that's it. And if anyone else wants to come along for the ride, happy days. That's it, really.
All right. That's obviously sort of label boss now then, and because the Andy B in the World just released his ridiculous album.
Oh,
It's
mate.
incredible, but my word, it's ridiculous. 172 musicians. It's unnecessary.
He showed me, right. I went to do trombone for a few of his tracks at his house in Glastonbury, and when it was safe to, I'll just throw that in there. But he showed me a freaking 50-person gang vocal.
It's
50 people.
It's insane.
Dude, it is ridiculous. Every band that you can possibly think of has a member. It's so clever though. Every band that you can almost think of like in that genre of music, like so you've got members of Bracket, 10 Foot Pole, Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake, are all on this album. I did trombone on a track which had Roger from Less Than Jake and Chris, I can't remember his surname, but he was the drummer from RX Bandits. And he's just a ridiculous drummer. And it's insane. Technology is an amazing tool if you use it correctly.
That's exactly it.
And you know how.
Yeah. But Andy is smashing it, man. Like that is I don't know if any of you guys have heard it, but he knocked it out of the park. He's spent 4 years. Like I'm surprised the guy isn't bald. But we're already talking about like his next few releases. But it was, I don't know. I watched some of his vlogs. So again, he's been on it for a while with the whole technology spectrum of it. But it was nice to get involved with, not just go, right, okay, so you're doing the vlogging, you've got all the technology involved with it, you're streaming it, and you've got your algorithm sorted, but let's go back to the basics and get it on a physical product. So we're dropping it's going to be like a double vinyl gatefold like just like a really nice product, and like with a thank you list. And he's done like a book, which is almost like a school yearbook, but with all the players that have been on it and photos of them, and everything's handwritten, and it's just really taking it back to basics. And I think that is definitely something that is missing right now.
How are like Pookout gonna push that so people can see it though? Do you think? Because that's
What do you mean? What?
like, so obviously you're putting it out. How are you then selling it to people? How are you getting it out there that this product exists for people to discover something new?
Well, I've got to be honest. Andy is an absolute guy. He's an absolute genius, but he's worked his butt off getting a name out there. And again, so you've got 172 musicians on it. From some are from bands, some aren't. But those 172 musicians, when they find out they're on an album and it gets released, instantly, guys, do you mind just sharing that album about? Well, it's just 172 people just go, heck yeah, let me just share that. I'm on this album, you should check it out. You go from that, you go to like your music online pages, so like the ones on Facebook. He's phenomenal. He's just really, really on it. It's a really, really smart, clever idea in developing a project.
It's like I've listened to it. It's bloody amazing.
Oh, he's
really is.
Musically, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the one thing I love about it as well is no song sounds the same as the next song.
Yeah, I was expecting just like 14 or however many tracks is just third wave ska, but it's not like that at all.
No. I mean, like, every song sounds different to the other. You've got one song which could sound like Frank Turner. Then you've got another one which could sound like a pop punk, well, like a Fandangle song. That was his old band. And then you could get another one which is like proggy. And it's a lot of it he takes into consideration is who he's pictured to be on that track.
It's so for instance, incredible achievement.
He went around like the one of my favorite songs, the 11th Hour, the last track, which has got Chris from Our Expanded strumming on it. He went for this proggy middle A, and it's just like it's not on anywhere else in the album, but it just worked. But at the same point, having said that, because he's the key songwriter, it's got a flow to it as well, man. Like it's really, really clever, really, really clever. He's knocked it out of the park. Like it's a phenomenal album.
Really is. Right. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up now. I haven't really prepped you on this, so I'm sorry for throwing you all under the bus. But can you each recommend a new band for people to check out?
Yeah, mine's going to be, I found them through, I think one of the playlists you sent me, Colin, maybe a month or two ago, Captain Asshole. I've been kind of all over those kind of over the last kind of month or so that's who I'm going to shout out.
What are Captain Asshole like for those of us who have never heard of them? Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of more, I guess, kind of gruff punk rock. It just, when you listen to it, it just sounds like a bunch of guys having fun, and just lots of kind of gruff, shouty kind of lyrics, and I kind of get sort of like Iron Sheik kind of vibes, that sort of thing from it. Yeah, so that's it. And they brought out their first album, I think, Colin, was it like in 2019?
Yeah, What an Awful Life.
Yeah, it's awesome. So that one, lots of kind of catchy choruses. So yeah, I really like those.
Who wants to go next?
Mate, I think my problem is like one, really? I've got a string list here, dude.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Go for two if you like.
Right, okay. I'll go for two. Right, I will recommend my own band because I do feel like we are doing.
Yeah, why not?
Different. Redeemon. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram. Apparently, what's everyone's thoughts on TikTok? Actually,
I don't really know what it is.
I think I'm too old. Yeah.
The only one. I'm not the only one. Some people have said, "Oh, mate, you're missing out on TikTok." Apparently, Redeemon got name dropped on a ska punk TikTok thing, and I was just like, right, okay, what's TikTok? Someone showed it to me, and I watched it, and I nearly had a full blown panic attack. It was just too intense to watch. But yeah, so anyway, going back, yeah, I'll recommend that because I think we're trying to do something a little bit out of the park, and we're going to be dropping it, the album. And these pre-sales will be coming up in the next couple of months. But the other band I will recommend is a band called Hot Stove Jimmy. Have any of you guys ever heard of them?
I know the name.
Right. Okay.
Ska?
Think Jesus Lizard, Nirvana in Utero. That kind of Steve Albini vibe. Gone ska. So it's all like feedback drones and that kind of grungy vibe, like really dirty.
Scunge.
But it's scrunge. I kid you not, when I was 18, I wanted to do a scrunge band.
Okay.
Just be like, oh god. But yeah, Hot Stove Jimmy are a phenomenal band, and no, they don't sing songs like that. But yeah, really, that was for me one of the last bands one of the new bands I checked out, and my jaw just hit the floor. Like really weird rhythms, like it had a bit of an avant-garde jazz vibe with it as well, a bit like Blue Meanies on that. I think they called it avant-garde actually, but yeah, check out Hot Stove Jimmy.
Will do. Matt, what you got? Hundreds. I'm sure.
Just kind of reiterate a couple I mentioned earlier. My friend's band Drag Me Down. They joke and call themselves Whatever Core, which I find very amusing. But it's basically a kind of a hybridized skate punk, traditional pop punk, easy core, post-hardcore. There's occasionally some metal edge stuff in there as well. Again, Heathcliff, because the album they released yesterday, which is just kind of skate punk, ska, reggae, metal kind of mix. I've been listening to a lot of Elm Tree Circle recently. That's kind of more indie, alt-rock kind of emo type thing. It's not really what I would normally go for, but I bought the vinyl from Quad Records recently, and it's been on my timetable quite a lot. What else?
Matthew, can I ask, what is easycore?
Easycore, my understanding of it.
I guess.
Yeah, so do you know 4 Year Strong?
Yeah.
That basically 4 Year Strong is the easiest way to quantify it.
I think it kind of started with like Newfound Glory.
Yeah, Newfound Glory started doing some stuff. Yellow Card did a bit. Yellow Card always get forgotten for starting early easycore, but they started.
A lot of kind of like Slam Dunk.
Yeah, basically it's kind of like hardcore and metalcore breakdowns in
throughout in
ultra tuneful pop punk.
Right.
Yeah, but like it'll go from like a basic, moderate kind of skate punky kind of beat into that.
Is it kind of a play on easy listening? Is that
maybe? It's because it goes from being really aggy kind of hardcore and metalcore to being the most auto-tuned in life in the space of about 3 seconds. I don't like it. I mean,
I love it.
I've written about it a lot, and I can tell when it's been done well and when it's been done not well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of I can't go on with it. It's too much of a. I don't mind it so much in like really melodic skate punk going to like thrash or kind of a new wave of heavy metal kind of sound. That's fine, but the sort of juxtaposition between, late 90s, early 2000s pop punk and then metalcore breakdowns sometimes rubs me up the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of got this thing.
But the technical side of it is good.
I kind of get this thing where if it's cool, if it's like the cool thing to do at the moment, I would just take the biggest step back from it. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's just like, it's just too much. This band are amazing. No, they're not.
Yeah.
It's all subjective. It's subjective.
Yeah. It is. But I do find like a lot of when it's cool at the moment, it just doesn't. It's false. I think that's my thing. It just comes across as a lot of false, and you need to weed those bands out.
And House Ghost. Sorry, everyone listen to House Ghost because they're fantastic.
I need to do that.
I've heard them.
It's proper kind of like Ramonesy, garage punky sort of. It's all like horror film themed, like without being the Misfits or anywhere near the Misfits.
Oh,
really.
amazing.
So like the Groovy Ghoulies.
I don't know them.
Oh,
The Goonies are great.
they're from
man.
they're from the 90s. Like there's Lookout
Yeah.
Records. Loads of fun.
Oh, okay. But yeah, if you like that, then that kind of like happy-go-lucky. Some of it's quite heavy, but it just doesn't feel heavy. Like it's really, really good. It's Nick from the Raging Nathans singing in their three-piece, and I forget what the other two are called. What's her name? That's gone. But
It's a weird name.
they're all there.
Awesome.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
So, who are you going to have you already recommended, Colin?
I haven't. I've been sitting here panicking. It's first thing. I've just thrown you all under the bus, and then I've not thought of anyone
Yeah.
myself.
Thanks, mate.
Need as you are.
Yeah,
Come
okay,
on.
yeah. I'm just literally looking at my review calendar as you were talking. So I'm going to go a Bad Operation, I think.
My man.
From they're on a Bad Time and Community Records. Like
Yeah,
They-
dude.
they call it a new tone, don't they? It's like just like a new like modern take on like two-tone ska, and their album's amazing.
I love the fact that they called that genre U-tone. Like,
Yeah,
I'm so
Yeah.
I'm so fed up of them like of it getting called first wave, second wave, third wave. It's like so so between the waves it just died. Nobody did
200th wave.
anything. Like that's it. Like yeah, U-tone I think is awesome.
yeah,
And I also like the name Metalliscar as well.
Nice.
yeah. Are you the Bad Operation did sell out, didn't it, on Pookout? But you're getting it back.
You've got some
Okay.
more back. Already got it back.
I will be sending you some money after this podcast then.
Absolutely. do you want another one of these little sexy postcards as well, mate?
I've got quite a collection. I just don't know what to do with them. I don't want to throw them
Dude.
away because it seems like a waste.
Honestly, I've had to, for all the Andy B pre-orders, I don't know if you can see, I've like handwritten all of these so far, and then I've got these more left. So we're going for a way.
Halfway there.
Yeah. Right, this cramp.
It's a lot of scarf to sell. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Bad Operation. Go check them out. All right. I think
Amazing.
we are.
One more.
Whoa!
He's got one more.
I've just remembered. I was locking up some review lists and feature lists the other day, and I got an email from a band called the Red Stains, and it's like a post-punk, but kind of quite minimalistic, but also quite poppy, but also really aggressive. Like they're smashing a lot of sort of gender stereotypes and stuff like that.
Perfect.
It's really tuneful and playful. Like it's got that playful, melodic, like original post-punk thing, but then the way all the sort of the lyrics and the ideologies are coming across is like really kind of OG punk at the same time. I haven't written anything yet, but I just remembered listening to a few bits as I was going through my email box, and they're fantastic. And the new Ghost of West Beach track. Now, if you don't know who they are, they released one track last year, and it's like I think one of them's in Germany, one of them's here, and one of them's in the States. And the vocalist was in a band called Chuck, who were like a sort of in the 90s, skate punk band of the 90s, that sort of sound a bit like Pulley, that sort of sound. And then you've got Javier from Eat Dirt, also playing guitar, and it's just kind of, you know, that kind of really anthemic melodic punk that makes you just want to like wave your fist in the air constantly, like
The best
for
type.
the entire song. Yeah, Ghost of West Beach, definitely check that out.
Well, I think they appeared on at least one CPRW Records release. Forget which one. Maybe Music
think
Venue
so.
Trust. Maybe Music
Yeah.
Venue Trust. Maybe Hidden Gems last year. Something. But yeah, really good band. Right. Okay. We'll wrap this up.
Send me a link to those musics, guys, of what everyone's recommending.
We'll
Yeah.
do. We'll put some links when we post the thing as well.
Okay, wicked.
That's a way. That's what the professional YouTube people do. Yeah. Like and subscribe. Yeah, Matt writes for Ear Nutrition. They are the best punk rock blog around.
Second only to you.
Oh shucks. Yeah, so go and read that. Lara, there's Talking Tunes still on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Sometimes-
like halfway through editing a video, and it's just taking so long.
Can you do that noise again? That was fantastic.
Like,
Yeah.
There's another clip for the trailer. And as I mentioned before,
Got the new music.
Yeah, Pook does Pookout Records. He's in Redeemon. You still playing the Filaments? You still playing the Filaments?
Yeah. We're
And-
still doing that. We've actually got. I'm a bit more. We're meant to be playing Hastings later this year now for Toxic What's It Fest. So that'll be amazing.
Sell out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, because people are chomping at the bit for shows, man. Like it's crazy, but I just hope that it happens because it will be gutting if, everyone's on full lockdown again, or it just one reason or another, the legal reasons, just can't do it, which is a horrible thought. But stay positive.
Stay positive.
Gigs are happening.
Yeah, so go check out all the bands we've spoken about today. If you've got a new band you want to recommend, put it in the comments and we'll have a listen because we like discovering new music. You should too. Thanks.
Especially if you're young.
Yeah, young people.
Young and upcoming.
You
Young
are the
people
future.
start bands.
I'm still young though for another couple of months, so it's fine.
Yeah, you're fresh off the nipple, mate. You're well young.
And on that note,
Oh wow!
cheers everyone.
He's gone red. Redder than my barnet.
Right. Goodbye.
All right, all the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Potatoes.